Three, two, one. Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast. My name is Gregory Russell Benedict,
My name is Vincent Van Patten.
and this is a podcast about inspiring you to embark on the adventure of your life. We are so excited to be reunited for an episode together today. How we doing, Vinny?
We are fantastic. It's really exciting as I finally found a little studio to finally record together with seamless Wi-Fi. And it's episode 150, which is quite the milestone, my friend. What a journey it has been so far. And it's a cool one because this is kind of the beginning of a new chapter in my life. So that's kind of a good breaking off point to get this episode 150 going. It's pretty exciting. So I'm here in Osaka. It's a rainy morning. Just made my journey on the train over here. It's about 9 a.m. And I am no longer an English teacher. So for the last year and a half, I've been teaching English here in Japan. But the time had come to say goodbye, to dive into just trying to find something that's more aligned with what I truly want to be doing, and which is writing and storytelling. And something that we've kind of talked about also is I have this expectation of what I would like to happen in this next chapter, which is I want to move to Tokyo. I want to find the perfect job writing for a magazine or something exciting and from no longer, the Japanese traditional workforce from having to wear a suit and tie every day. And just that was kind of draining me.
But you look so
But
good in the suit and tie.
it's true. I did wear it well and it was fun. But who knows? Like, honestly, I have no idea what's going to actually happen. And maybe I will be doing a job that I'm not, after 6 months, I realize, maybe after 1 month, I realize, no, this is not it either. Because, like my great friend Santana told me, this next chapter is going to be different and better than you could possibly imagine. And I'm just trying to bring that energy into finding, taking the next step. So long story short, very exciting. And it's a great place to start, but cut it off there for now.
It's a great place to start, and it's wild that we have recorded 150 episodes. The fact that we haven't been canceled after doing this 150 times is truly amazing. And it's cool to look back at how many times we almost quit, how many times we had to slog through making it happen, doing solo episodes, the Wi-Fi was sucked, figuring out how to navigate the time zone when you first went to Japan. The
What about going
path,
to Europe first? Yeah, last summer.
Europe first, then Japan, the path has been
I was
anything but straightforward.
recording with, we want to use the official name, but but recording with that in like the public garden across the street from my hostel that I was working at in Lisbon. Just all these like funny little moments. And it's not even so much of like, the forces, the external forces that were getting us off, just questioning things. There's the internal stuff. Like, why are we doing this still? It's hard. We don't really see the point. Like, what is our message? And
Yeah.
now here we are. It's awesome.
And we are just getting started. We're going to keep saying that. But also, what's really cool to see is that we're 150 episodes in and you find
It's also
yourself,
what's good to see is your middle hair part. I think
yes,
that is should be noted.
that should be noted. If you're listening to this on audio, hop on over, get your ass on over to YouTube and check out this
Greg
sweet
is
little
a
part.
new hairstyle. It's fantastic. It's working. It's only gonna get better, just like the
It is
show.
working. Dear God, I hope it only gets better. Phase one of growing the hair out. You heard it here first. But it's crazy because you find yourself again. I mean, I'm always somewhat in the unknown, but here you are again, a new chapter. And although you've learned so much along the way, and I'm sure that this next chapter of not knowing is more comfortable than it was in the beginning, there's always this sense of what am I going to do next? How is it going to work out? It's crazy.
Big time, big time. Yeah, I am. So for the last 3 weeks, it was kind of I finished like at Christmas teaching English, and then some of my best friends, our best friends, came to visit for a 3 week trip in Japan and South Korea. And that was kind of my retirement party. And we went to a few days in Osaka and then went to Seoul and Busan, South Korea, which was all time, and then a week in Tokyo. And that really just solidified my love for Tokyo and the force that is drawing me there. It is strong. Force is strong with Tokyo. Like I just feel like it's the place where I gotta be right now. But yeah, it's scary because now it's my first week back in Osaka and I'm unemployed, but kind of calling it a creative vacation. I told you this because I'm trying to finish my book, trying to find a new job. I'm also focusing on healing my body and just not having kind of the pressure of work and just kind of relaxing and doing a little bit of traveling as well. So it is an exciting time, but it is pretty scary because yeah, I have no clue really what's going to happen. I have some family friends I'm going to talk to in Tokyo, friends of friends, just doing random stuff. You got to be, when you're in this kind of position where there's so many paths that it can be quite daunting. You got to look at every avenue, look into the eyes of every angle and not say no to things. Like I was saying earlier, I can't say no to something just because it's like, oh, no, I know I'm not doing that. I hated working like a traditional job. I could find myself in another suit and tie and just loving wherever I end up. You never know. You don't imagine that will be the case, but I mean, there's already my preconceived notions coming back. So you gotta just be open and excited. I'll come back to this point, what Robert Greene says, but if you have anything to say there.
I think it's time. I think it's time to dive into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Start talking about some of the things that we wanted to touch on today.
Yes. So yeah, Robert Greene, he's a writer. It's pretty much his big thing. He's been my MVP right now. Just I don't know why he's on a bunch of podcasts at this moment because he hasn't. I don't think he's come out with anything new, but I think he's just one of the goats, greatest of all time. And yeah, I saw him on like Huberman podcast, Ryan Holiday, Tom Bilyeu, and he's fascinating guy. Like he's kind of has this nefarious persona, it seems like, because one of his famous books was the 48 Laws of Power, which I've not read. Um, it's kind of known as like he wrote kind of the rule book on like seducing and kind of these things that seem like negative things on the surface. And when you say like power and seduction, they seem like bad qualities
Seems very
or just
Machiavellian on the surface.
right. Yeah, that's what he talks about. But he's just saying that this is human nature. Like I just started his book, The Laws of Human Nature, and you could either deny them or you can kind of lean into them and use them because you will make life easier. Not trying to seduce people. He actually says, yeah, seducing people, not in like a sexual way, and that's kind of the negative, but like in getting what you want, like with bosses and employees, and like how to make people want to follow you and like you. And anyways, that's not why I like him. I'm not gonna really interested in those books, but I am interested in human nature. So I just started The Laws of Human Nature, and then one of my favorite books by him, Mastery, which is incredible, which is all about just finding your path in life. And it's about, he says, at your birth, a seed is planted, and that seed is like your life force. And your life's task is to bring that seed to flower. And you discover who you are by learning who you are. So it's this journey of learning who you are by going out there and like experiencing the world and discovering. It's not that you're gonna just wake up one day and you know exactly, oh, this is who I am, this is my mission. It's that it's a journey of a lifetime to go and discover what that seed is, what you're meant to do. And I think we're both lucky that we have done the work to really discover what these potential seeds are in our lives. And on the surface, it's for me being a writer, a storyteller, but it's more like a feeling, I think. It's when I'm in Tokyo and I'm wandering the streets by myself and I can't help but jot down notes about how the sky looks or like the buildings or people's faces. That is my message. That is the universe saying, this is what you're meant to do. Figure out a way to get to the city that's calling you and just keep telling the story because clearly you can't stop and you're decent at it and you have a lifetime to get better. So he says it should be the most exciting thing in your life, discovering what your seed is and bringing it to flower. It shouldn't be like he was on Tom Bilyeu, his podcast, and I don't love Tom Bilyeu. He's good in this interview, but he's just kind of so like by the book and like kicking your own ass, and it just sucks like the joy out of this experience. And he was kind of saying that to Robert Greene. Robert Greene was saying like it should be the greatest journey of your life. It should be the most exciting thing you have to do is go find out what you love and what you are good at and to work your ass off doing that thing. And Tom Billy was like, just kind of like it's you have to have a and terrifying clarity of like what you want to do and just saying all this like he's like that. I mean, that makes it sound like such a daunting and just terrible thing. Like if you're in your 20s or 30s, you should be so excited about trying to find your life's task that it shouldn't be like such an intense thing. So, anyways, Robert Greene right now is firing me up, and that's the stage I'm in. It's the feeling, and wrapping this all up. It's like notice how the world makes you feel. Notice like certain things when you're in certain environments, when you're playing sports, when you're making art, and it really does come down to like what you enjoyed or what you were interested in as a kid. But it's a feeling that you work with instead of like this job title that you just ascertain. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really feel you on that. I was listening to David Goggins recently came out of his podcast hiatus and went on Andrew Huberman. And David Goggins, for people who aren't familiar, is a very intense individual. He went from 300 pounds, couldn't read or write when he was like 25, to being in the Navy SEALs, going through training camp or Hell Week 3 times, finished the last time with broken legs. Anyways, has become an ultra marathon runner, super successful business owner, speaker, super gnarly dude. And he was talking about how life is about slog. It's the slog. Like it's this battle against yourself every single day. And I understand where he's coming from because he had one of the gnarliest childhoods and everything in his life has been against him. But I really resonate with you in that it should be this adventure. There should be joy in it. And I think a lot of it comes down to your expectation. And if I relate this to my own life, when I was trying to find my life's task or my purpose, my passion, whatever you want to call it was really stressful. And I felt like I spent 5 years grappling and struggling to figure it out because I was putting so much pressure on myself. It was less of this fun scavenger hunt of discovery and more of, oh my God, I need to figure this out because I'm so miserable in my job in finance. Like I need a way out. And so I think the way we look at it and our expectations about it all plays a huge role in how we'll end up feeling about it. If it's something that we see as happening over the rest of our life, like we have our entire life time horizon to figure it out, that feels a lot less daunting and a lot more manageable than you have to figure it out in the next 6 minutes.
Right. No, I 100% agree. It is interesting. It's like, I mean, because even Robert Greene was saying like he was trying to make it a little fluffier, but it's still like if you're in your 20s or 30s, there's less time than we because you don't want to be 40 or 50 and like trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. You want to at least be like, okay, I know who I am in some sense. Like I know that this is what I'm interested in, this is where I could contribute. Like, you want to take it seriously, but realize that it should be an adventure. However, that doesn't mean it's gonna be easy. Like an adventure is not all easy. Like if you listen to this podcast, it's not hasn't been a easy road here living in Japan and still dealing with feeling my body and stuff. And what I heard recently, just Ryan Holiday, it's like 100 lessons from Marcus Aurelius on Stoicism. And I've kind of always hesitated to say that life is a fight. I've kind of said life is a dance. It's not always gonna be easy, but it's like you're dancing with life. But he's like, no, Marcus Aurelius says that life is a fight. It's not this easy. He like says it's not a dance. It's like it's straight up. Life is a fight, and I was like, oh well, that is interesting. But like, what is it a fight for? And it's a fight to like, keep the faith, to fight to retain hope. Like even when you are like, what the fuck do I do? It is a fight against your own insecurities and the challenges you face. It's a fight just to stay light. Because what is a fight? It's I think I was trying so hard not to say it for some reason. I was like, nah, it's not a fight because I didn't want to say like I'm battling this back pain or something. But like I'm fighting every day just to stay joyful and not let my back pain get to me. This like on the way on the train station, like um just feeling like twinges as usual on my back. And I'm trying not to focus. Like I listened to this book so recently, The Way Out. And I mean, it's kind of an aside, but if you do have like chronic pain or back pain or something that you're trying to figure out, something that I took away from it is instead of focusing on a hawk, like it's hard for me not to always be like hyper uh, aware of my back, like, oh, just felt something here, just felt. Instead, be like Toto in The Wizard of Oz, be just kind of exploring, kind of grazing the land. When he goes and he finds the wizard at the end, it's kind of an old reference, but this is what he uses. And he pulls down the curtain and finds like the wizard, and it wasn't like a super scary wizard, it's just an old guy, like with smoke and mirrors. So, anyways, instead of being like a hawk and like hyper and aware of each little twinge in my body, just be curious and like just kind of notice. And instead of calling it pain, maybe just be like, I feel a little sensation here and there, but it's nothing. It's just this is what the body feels like. So it comes and it goes. So, anyways, that to me is a fight. It's a fight just to like stay light. And on the way over here, changed my perspective. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling a little something. Okay, don't love that. But no, you know what? Brendan Backstrom, whose program I'm in right now for my back ability blueprint, he does like a several articles a week. And one is just when he was going through such bad pain, to wake up in the morning and just ask himself what feels good and just express gratitude for that. I my arms, there's no pain in my arms. That's great. I have no pain in my fingers. There's no pain in my legs. And you know what? There's a little pain in my lower back. We're gonna get through it. But instead of focusing on the one bad thing, focus on everything else that is going right. So I was walking through the station and I said, wow, I feel great. My legs are moving, going to record a podcast, my best friend finally found a place to do it. Like life is good. I'm not going to a job that I don't like anymore. I just have on this creative vacation. I think it made my body feel better. Like I
Mm.
didn't have any pain after that. So yeah, just the mindset shift. All that to say that that's kind of part of the fight. That was like me succeeding and winning that battle and getting back on the right foot. So
I'll jump in here. I
yeah.
have spent so much time thinking about, is life a fight? Is life a dance? Is life suffering? I've been in a 4-year debate with one of my friends and mentors about whether life is suffering. And I think it depends. I think like so many things, especially myself, I want to label the world as black and white, as a one or a zero. I think what's coming to me now is sometimes life is a fight, sometimes life is a dance, sometimes life is a nap. I took an hour nap before this because I needed it. And I think it can be fluid. It doesn't have to be one or the other all the time. And just because Marcus Aurelius, who seemed like a pretty cool guy, said it was one way, or just because Jesus on the other end of the spectrum says it's this way, both seemed like pretty cool guys. Would love to hang out with them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the truth, the end all be all. And that's one thing I've really been trying to implement this year. It was a realization I had last year of just because you admire someone for what they do, even if they're an expert, even if they have 12 PhDs and they know more than you, just because they have the education, you don't have to take everything that they say as gospel, as fact.
Mm, I agree. Yes, for sure. It's cool also just as we're reading and constantly kind of it's cool just to realize and to be open to new ideas. Like I didn't think life was a fight before. Now it's like, oh, maybe it is. So just to be questioning and not so set in like one way or another. And I 100% agree that, you know, I try to make it a dance. It should be enjoyable, but of course, sometimes it's going to be hard, and it's not one size fit all. It is constantly changing, and I took a nice nap yesterday myself. So perks of the vacay. But yeah, it's even with Robert Greene and stuff, it's just because somebody is labeled as like they know it all, and like Jordan Peterson, great example, kind of waned off him a bit over the last like year or two because he's kind of changed his trajectory and doing different stuff, but that doesn't discredit the wealth of wisdom that we gleaned from him when he was really focusing on finding meaning in your life and having the adventure and the hero's journey and stuff. That is lessons that I will always carry, and that helps me every day. And just because I don't care as much for what he's doing now doesn't mean that certain things you could take from anybody. Robert Greene, I'm not super into his power and seduction and stuff, but his stuff
Sure.
about actually have the
Nice
book right
try.
here.
Nice try, buddy. We see right through that.
It's true. Dang it. Yeah, but you could take. I mean, from us, even if you listen to us, I'm sure you might not agree with everything, or we might be annoying in some ways, whatever. But there could be some nuggets of wisdom here, and that was a huge realization, I think, for both of us that nobody has the answers, and that people are, no matter how old you are, we're all on the same journey here. The people we look up to, the guys like Adrian Bianco, who he's kind of been my North Star in Japan, this guy who started his own like marketing, consulting, like agency that does just super cool like fashion brands and has his own like digital magazine and stuff, who I ultimately would love to work for. It's kind of the North Star, but he's just a guy figuring out life just like we are. And I'm sure he has a lot of questions that we'd be able to even help him with. And like he obviously has a lot of wisdom that we could find useful. And even our parents, it's realizing that they are definitely still just figuring things out every step of the way. It's been huge.
Yeah, and what comes up for me in that is something that I wanted to touch on today, which is shifting into doing things for the sake of doing them and not just for some future outcome. That's really helped me with this whole enjoyment piece because I've found myself at times in the past only doing things for the sake of some hoped for outcome, some goal that I'm doing. And then you kind of lose the essence of each day and the joy of each day. And I learned something recently that ties into this. It's two different ways of going through life, two different types of activities. There is telic activities, which is Greek and the root is teleological. These are things that have a specified time frame, outcome, they have an end and a start point, versus you can have something that's atelic, which is something you do for the sake of doing. Yes, you plant a garden because you want to harvest fruits and vegetables, but people enjoy gardening because it's a therapeutic, relaxing thing. Another example is walking. Yes, you can walk to get from point A to point B, but people like me and you, we love going out for a walk just to think, just to be in the actual process, in the activity. And for me, I've been applying this atelic mentality to things like the podcast. Yes, I would love the podcast to be monetarily successful. I mean, we're already making millions, but we could make
Millions.
millions more in the future. But really, like doing this because we love the process. We love the conversation. We love connecting with each other. We love connecting with guests and just being in the conversation instead of thinking about, okay, what's the title of this one going to be? How am I going to write the show notes? What's the
Mhm.
thumbnail going to look like on YouTube? Because if you only engage in things for the sake of an outcome instead of learning to enjoy the process, you lose the richness of life. I think that's why the phrase enjoy the process or trust the process or fall in love with the process is so important and so wise. Because at the end of the day, we just have process one day, process the next day, process the next day. Like our entire life is made up of moments. And if we don't learn how to enjoy them, we're going to get to the end of it and be out of time.
Mm. Yeah, it's the infinite game, you
Yes.
know. Yeah, it's doing things without a endpoint, really. It's obviously we're gonna need on some things like finishing a book or deadlines, whatever, but this relates to finding that life force, finding your seed. It's something that you would do like me if you never really made money from it, but you would still do it every day because you love it and you never know what that will turn into. If you could find what that thing is, and it's kind of the uh what's the Japanese word? You're
Ikigai
trying your ikigai, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you love.
and what you can get paid for, all four of those combined.
How for? Yeah, if you start questioning what that thing could be and you actually enjoy it, I forget what I was listening to. Might have been Robert Greene on something, but it's just about that is the purpose. It's finding something that you don't really even need to get paid for. But you genuinely enjoy just being in that mud of it. Like something that you will do that the hard stuff doesn't feel so hard, that the tedious actions of it you kind of enjoy, that you can, you know, throw yourself into and willingly do, even if people don't notice, even if you don't get paid. If you find that thing, there really is no telling where you could go with it. Like it's, but it's not even just like, finding your path in life. Can you give any examples of just ways that you have implemented it? Not even really with work, but just with life in general.
Well, what's coming up for me right now, and then we can move past this, but is really the podcast because we've had so many conversations about this podcast where we ask, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? It takes so much time. Why are we doing video now? It takes so much time. We don't get anything out of it.
It
But
is
I'm
funny
really,
how
I'm gonna
we've flip-flopped with the video, but we're
all
back,
the
baby.
time, all the time. But what comes up for me, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to articulate this feeling, but it's you have to, let me take that back. If you want to be a successful podcaster or be a successful doctor or a successful lawyer, like you have to do the thing continuously. You can't stop. And so it's
Mm,
finding ways to stay in the game and just keep going when no one's looking, when no one's watching, when no one's listening. And for me, the way I've shifted into that recently, because I've started doing guest episodes again, and those take so much more time. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not getting paid for this. Why am I doing this? Shifting into a mindset of it being the process or it being a gift. Like the person who comes on the podcast, maybe even if no one were to listen to it, just having another human on the podcast to listen to their story, to ask questions, the joy that they get out of it and the connection we have together, that's enough. And it's seen it almost as like an act of service has really helped me, whether it's podcasting or writing. Coaching's a little easier because I get paid for it, but it's doing the things that you enjoy doing, especially when it's for free. It's not like finding the things you do for free and doing them. It's finding the things that you have to do for free because no one wants to pay you for them yet. And over time, if you stick with it, that's how you become successful at it. Or not, I don't even like the word successful, but that's how you end up making money from it. You can't become a big YouTube star without consistently making YouTube videos for so long. Like that's the piece that I'm trying to articulate better is that most people, I mean, including myself, I've wanted to give up on certain things like podcasting for so long because it's not happening. The expectation, again, going back to that piece, it's not happening in the expected time frame, but you just have to keep going. It's the only way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we gotta just give ourselves a little bit of credit of like the resilience that it takes. Because dude, it's not easy with when you do something and you're not gonna see any. I mean, it's actually been really cool. Like in Japan, people that it's kind of random people are like, oh, I listened to like your podcast. Like, really? It's awesome. And it's like little things here and there. And that, dude, that is enough of a reason to keep doing it. But we're not going to see actual monumental growth besides the millions that we're already making
Right, of course.
until, 500 episodes. But the only way to continue at something, and this goes back to Robert Greene's mastery, is to put in like 10,000 hours. And he says, not, maybe you're 40 and you're like, I put in my 10,000 hours. Like, why am I not successful? Doesn't mean you have a whole lifetime to 10,000 hours. It means you got to be putting in the work like in your 20s and 30s, like those 10,000 hours to get good at the thing. And that means it takes dedication, it takes hard work, which is what this is. But to really, the only way you're going to stick with it is if you enjoy the thing. And that doesn't mean every part of it's going to be fun and easy by any means, but we love this so much that we're not going to stop because this now, just like how finding a place to do this, which should have been easy. Sure I could have done this 5 months ago, but it took just getting a little fire in me to like actually be like, okay, I gotta go find a freaking studio. And just this is like such a win, like that this works, that it's easy to get to. It's got free coffee. It's just the little wins, baby. You got to stack them up and just be proud of the little steps that you take. Like each step of the way, that's everything. My writing journey, with your coaching journey, with the podcast journey, it's the little wins every step. Like just be grateful for it and celebrate them.
And that is exactly another piece I wanted to bring in is that it is about those little wins and it's about, I think ultimately it's about learning. Like that's why we do so many things. And maybe we do this podcast not for the sake of having this huge podcast, but the stuff we learn during this process gets us to be able to do the next step, which is over here, which we could never have seen if we hadn't done 150 episodes of this already. I mean, the things we've learned along the way, it makes me think about the guest who I had on the last episode, number 149, Sean Kelly. On his 40th birthday, he decides
Kelly, 149, baby.
he had this heartbreaking realization that he had never taken a single step in his entire life to move closer to his dream in all of his 40 years. His dream was to create a TV show, star in it, sell it to a major network. He hadn't taken a single step toward that. So on his 40th birthday, he tells his friends and his family that he's going to do it. His friends and his family, they ask him, okay, what's the TV show going to be about? He says, I don't know. Okay, what's the TV show going to be called? He says, I don't know. 9 months later, he sells this TV show to a network. He stars in it. It's successful in America. He goes to the UK, does an international series. And one of the things that stood out most about him and listening to his stories is his ability to learn and his ability to overcome rejection. He talks about the first day he called every single television company in America, called them all, got rejected by everyone. Starts at the beginning of the list, calls them all again, but this time he implements all of the things, all of the words that he picked up as he was getting rejected, and starts just dropping these little knowledge bombs, like
The
little
art of
tiny
seduction.
things, like one word that he had never heard of, like head of development or production company. He hadn't heard of any of these things. And on the second round of phone calls, he starts dropping these things, and that gets him a little further and a little further. And he just compounded that over and over again, not being afraid to get rejected, and then learning through the rejection what to do for the next step. That to me feels like the thing to aim at. The thing that should be at the top, what we're optimizing for is simply learning because we don't know what we don't know and we don't know where we're going to be next. But you have to do something, try, fail, learn to keep going.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I was listening to him. Hilarious. Great episode. It makes me think of yesterday. Well, I'm reading this book right now, Winter in Sokcho. It's awesome. Very quick read about the small little Korean village or kind of a Korean seaside town. And this Frenchman comes to visit. He's a artist, draws, and it's about this kind of weird relationship between this girl, Korean girl who works at this guest house, and this interesting Frenchman who comes and stays there, and very interesting. And so why I bring it up is there's a line in it I read last night that's like the Frenchman says, I fear that I'm not going to be able to say what I truly want to say. And she's like, well, that gives you a reason to keep going and like keep doing the art. And I have that same fear sometimes, pretty often. I'm like, I hear like a cool song or something. I'm like, damn, those lyrics are so sick. Like, I'll never like, and I'm just like, how do I, what am I going through right now? How could I create something that draws that same emotion, but like with my personal experience? And I'm like, is anything I've written actually that good, that interesting? Anyways, it's have an interesting question that you want to answer, like about yourself, about your path. And maybe neither of us have had ours answered yet, but that gives you a reason to keep going. And I kind of bring that up because it sounds like, he had a question of, oh, wow, will I ever do this thing? I haven't taken one step towards my dream. And then pretty much pursuing that question. I don't know if I talked about it a couple episodes ago, but like living the questions of our lives instead of needing this answer. I think I did on a solo episode, but we don't need the answers. Like we clearly don't have them, but we're living the questions of like, what is life supposed to mean? Can you live a life that you sincerely love, that you envision and imagine to be as exceptional? Like, is that possible? Live the questions, like go try to figure it out. And that gives me inspiration to like never stop writing until I feel I've said what I truly want to say, but that is a never ending process. And that goes back to the atelic experiences or activities,
Yeah, and
right?
you're describing exactly what I was trying to articulate, and I think failing to is that you will never write the Hemingway prose without doing all of the steps before that, where you're
Mm.
imitating other writers. I'm not talking about you specifically, but just you have to.
I actually do. I do that. It's like try write. I'm influenced by like right now. This book is very just like terse sentences. It's very short. In the beginning, it was kind of jarring, like even shorter than Hemingway. But now it's like clean and it makes like the beauty stand out. Sorry to interrupt you, but like as I'm editing my book now, I'm like, it's the perfect thing to read just to like give
Mm,
me inspiration of like how to just make sentences short and clean, and then the beautiful ones will stand out more. Sorry about that side note there.
no, that's exactly it. It's like you have to go through the stages of incompetence and learning and imitation and copying and borrowing and stealing to get to the point where you have those original thoughts, that original writing. because I feel that all the time. I'm writing on LinkedIn every single day, I'm posting on Twitter, and I feel like everything I'm saying is a regurgitation or a culmination of quotes and books and ideas that I hear from other people. And I was thinking about that today, like, wow, it's going to be really cool to get to the point where everything I'm sharing is an original thought. And again, maybe there is no original thought. It's always influenced by other people, but where I just sit down to write something and it's based on all of my experience. And I think it's one, I'm looking forward to that, but two, I'm like bringing it back to the atelic activity, like being in this process. I am the student, I am the learner, and this
Mm,
is the phase that I'm currently in, and I'm gonna enjoy it instead of only wanting to be the guru or the expert.
for sure. No, I think that's awesome. And if you're young, like in the stage of our lives, like we are, like don't be afraid of being the student. Like it's we want to be the expert. Like I got what I was saying. I was like, um, I have no lyrics as cool as like Gus Dapperton. Like, how does he come up with this stuff? But I take a little bit of influence from that. Maybe I like a word that he uses and I use it in my own story. There's nothing wrong with that, especially well with anything, but as a writer, there's nothing wrong with getting influence from Hemingway book and then reading a different one that's very flowery and kind of being influenced by that. We're supposed to be the student. This is Robert Greene 101 of just how important the apprenticeship phase is. In medieval times, that was a 10-year part of every person's life. You had to be an apprentice to a swordsmith or a leather maker or a cobbler. And now we kind of see it as like you have to get out of college and just freaking be rising in the ranks of entrepreneurship. And there's like so many options and you have to chart your own path. But to be a student is a necessary and beautiful time. And like I've kind of said in the past, I haven't had like a traditional mentor, but I'm a student of life. And the podcasts I listen to, the books I read, adventure I'm on, this is all stuff that I'm taking. And I mean, dude, even especially Brendan Backstrom, my back guy. He's younger than me. He's 25, but I freaking look up to him. Like, I mean, he's changed my life in ways that cannot even begin to describe. So I'm the student, even though I'm older than him. It's important and fun.
It's a gift to have the beginner's mind, to be in the beginning phases of not knowing. And it brings up one more thing from the episode with Sean Kelly that resonated with me so much because it would have triggered me so badly is that when he was on those calls getting rejected by the news networks and the production companies, people kept saying, like, wow, you don't know anything. Like, how could you ask that question? You should know that. And he interpreted as, oh yeah, I don't know anything, but like, can you help me? Like, can you tell me a little bit? And it was so interesting because for so much of my life, I've been afraid of being labeled as incompetent or not smart enough. And if I had heard that on a phone call, like, you don't know anything, that would have ripped my heart in two. It would have stopped me in my tracks. When for him, it was like, yeah, like, I don't know anything. Can you help me? So it's this like being okay with not knowing both in the intellectual, but I mean, bringing it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, in the life, in life, in the path of
In the
life.
life, baby.
It's the unknown. I mean, we will never really know. Even if we are the expert and the guru and the cult leader, we still don't know what we're talking about.
For sure. Jordan Peterson, he says he would make his kids ask a stupid question like every day in class. Like be the person who asks a stupid question because everybody's thinking it. We're all either acting like we know or we just don't know. And we're the ones asking the question and everybody's thinking. So yeah, being okay with not knowing is part of the process and lean into it. Shall we wrap up with the thought that I thought this whole episode was going to be about originally?
Yes, I love that.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of a good bow. So went on this big trip, 3 weeks with best friends, and this chapter, in the last, well, just as I made this my path in life of living in foreign countries and exploring and stuff, realized that I have to say goodbye a lot. I haven't seen you since spring, and I just had to say goodbye to my best friends as they go back home. And some of my best friends here in Osaka are leaving also, like they're stopping teaching and moving to different countries. And like I said goodbye to my best friends and they came back here and I said goodbye to my friends here. So I was like, damn, I'm just like saying goodbye a lot. But that just means, first of all, that you love your friends and that you are lucky and should be grateful for that in the first place. But um, also that you will always generate more of it, what you are open to and what the energy you put out is what you'll continue to reap. But the idea is that, so I'll give her original credit. So Kai, this girl in Tokyo, became one of our good friends. Me and Morgan met her a year ago in Tokyo, and then we were hanging out with her pretty much like the whole time here and now on this last trip for a week. And the guys went home, and she texted me like, Vinny, you guys taught me that it doesn't matter what you do, it's who you do it with. And I was like, wow, that's that is that could sum up my life. Like what I thought about it was me and you sitting on a park bench in Fukuoka, Japan, just both reading. It's like we don't have to be seeing the sights and running from town to town, doing all this crazy stuff. Just give us a park bench, like a random Japanese city, and we'll just kick it and have a good time.
That's all we need.
And that's all we need. And that's definitely the case, on this last trip. Like, just it really doesn't matter. We could be in the DMV, and it's not the most exciting place, but we'll enjoy it somehow. You know, it does not matter really what you do. It's who you do with. And I've kind of grappled with it a little bit too. I'm like, well, I'm doing these things, like I'm going out pursuing things, and that's all important. But does any of it matter without people you love? Like I know I couldn't do this without you. I know I couldn't move to Japan and probably wouldn't have the courage to do any of this stuff without my family and best friends. And in the end, that is really the only thing that matters is the people we surround ourselves with and are lucky enough to cross paths with in this beautiful life.
Yeah, that really, really resonates with me. It doesn't matter what you do, it matters who you do it with. So good. Because at the end of it, what you do
That's
doesn't
what,
really
yeah,
matter.
really doesn't. It really doesn't. And another just tied in like with my back. Like sometimes I think pretty often like this is if I'm in this current situation for the rest of my life, so be it. Like I'm still doing insane stuff. I have best friends. Life is still incredible. If I never played sports, so what? Like whatever. I know it's not gonna be the case, but I still go through that mental thing of like it really doesn't matter because the day-to-day act, like I'm still finding so much joy and getting through it. But how does that really relate? I guess it just doesn't matter. Like the things that we worry about, things we do, like it doesn't really matter in the end. People we do it with, just keep soldiering on.
I'm glad to be doing this with you, my friend. Couldn't do it without you. I would be in the loony bin, as I like to say, without you. Would have lost my marbles more times than I actually have.
Mm.
Appreciate you.
Likewise, buddy. Love you, brother.
And we
Well,
love all of you tuning in with us today. Thank you so much for being here. 150 episodes in, and again, we are just getting started.
that is right. Love y'all. Until next time.